Welcome to Rebel Watch, an all-Star Wars podcast.
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
Let me take us there, if you will.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Take us there.
Because it's a conversation we've had before. You know?
Yeah.
It's something we've talked about in the past, and we're bringing it up again because it's relevant. It matters.
And we can't promise that we won't do it in the future again.
Exactly. Really, we're doing all of this in the past because, don't forget, this is actually really a long, long time ago.
That's a great point.
In a galaxy far, far away.
Great point.
Yeah, so we are going to, get into a little discussion here, my friends, about Ezra Bridger and Rey.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank.
You know?
Are they
I say
that
Skywalker, but just because it sounds nice.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, it's not.
That's me.
It's not ruled out yet.
Yeah.
We'll
But
see.
anyways, so welcome to Rebel Watch. We are just ready to dive into some of these topics.
Yeah.
We had said we talked about it before. It's, Mike has mentioned, you've seen, this goes clear back to the Force Awakens.
Oh, absolutely.
With the conception of Rey, as a character.
Mary Sue.
Excuse me, Mary Sue.
Yeah, sorry. That's
right. I got it wrong.
That's what they're calling her.
That's what they called her.
Yeah.
Which is a joke.
It's a joke.
It's completely ridiculous. But yeah, there had been some people who didn't like that back in the day.
Yeah.
And maybe not even just that. It's not that she's a female. It's not that they say that it's not these things, and but then what they went to, my friend, was that like it's the way they handled her development in the Force.
Yeah. It's bananas.
It crazy. It's crazy.
Bananas.
And so I don't understand, and you really brought this to light to me. This is something you wanted to kind of, talk about. And honestly, I think you were in Rebels more than I was. I love Rebels.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but like Mike is diehard, dedicated to it. And so, you made the connection between Rey and Ezra Bridger.
Yeah. There's a lot there. It's they're not so different.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could throw Luke Skywalker into it. That seems like the more obvious comparison, I would think. But it's nice to think that, some of that, disdain isn't because she's a woman, but it exists and you can't ignore it. But
yeah, there's a bit out there, sure.
But you can easily call that out by saying we've seen this story before.
Yeah.
We've seen it with Luke Skywalker, a while ago, but more recently we've seen it with Ezra Bridger.
Yeah.
And it really dawned on me after rewatching Rebels, starting with season 1, meeting Ezra, seeing him use like a force push in the first couple episodes. I was just like, excuse me?
Right.
Like,
where did those develop?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did that come from?
And someone may say, he's been using it for years. You don't know that. Rey could have been using it for years. We don't know.
Well, what we know about Rey and the journal that was kept on her is that she is a renowned sort of warrior.
Exactly.
She's someone who's definitely feared kind of on Jakku.
Yeah.
So
you got to be living there.
Heck, yeah, it was near the observatory.
Yeah.
Where it has that little mission where she goes there and
great point.
She can hold her own. So how is that? Is that just where does that? I mean, again, there's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of stuff we don't know about Rey's early development, where she was at. But we do know a lot about Ezra. And we do know, that he's turning tricks and he's, pickpocket and making his way, trying to survive on Lothal.
There's a song there, making my way down south.
Yeah.
They just remind me of a '90s throwback. But you're right. You're right.
So I don't know. You had brought up that he seems to get force powers fairly quickly as well.
Yeah, and that
without
was
a master.
Without a master.
Force
right off
sensitive.
the bat.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. And that's I can see the issues with Rey's development throughout the 2 movies that we have. I get that. But like people were literally calling out her character for being so powerful so quickly and that she couldn't have learned that. And like I said earlier, the first comparison I go to is Luke. Like no one shoots, blows up the Death Star like that. I mean, the computers failed. All these people thought it wasn't power. Like he's using the Force.
Right.
So that's the easiest comparison. But then, yeah,
just real quick. So one thing people will say is that Luke he was already a good pilot. And I'm just going to play devil's advocate here for a second, but then I'm going to turn it on you.
Yeah.
So they say he's a good pilot. There's a reference to Beggar's Canyon, Biggs, Dark Lighter there.
Yeah.
Him wanting to join, the academy and all that good stuff. So you would say then that the Force is sort of focusing and taking a skill that he already had and further, developing it. But look back to Anakin being a pod racer and having Jedi-like reflexes and abilities, okay?
Yeah.
So Rey, same type of thing. Those Jedi-like reflexes and abilities are there in her fighting style. Yeah. And once the Force awakens inside of her, well, now that transfer from staff to lightsaber, it's still, she has great reflexes, great, that stuff was already there, and it's just heightened. It's just, oh gosh, what's the word? Augmented, because of the Force.
Well, don't forget, she's a good pilot too.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she hadn't really flown before, but she piloted. She piloted speeders. She did exactly what Luke had done.
She's very smart. She's a scavenger too, and she knows how things work and can fix things and stuff. She's obviously done some work on. The garbage, the Falcon. She knew that it had a compressor.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot there that the Force just augments it. It's a skill that they had growing up, and then, and again, they're Force sensitive, so it's always been there.
Yeah.
As Maz says, it's always been there.
Yeah.
So anyways, but yeah, you see that. And so why were we so upset? Why can't we accept that,
it doesn't make any sense, and that's why I think so many people jump to, well, you say that because she's this female character, and like I said, that does exist. And
now there are some people though who will say, hey, I think that way, and I'm not basing it off of her gender.
Yeah,
and that's okay. But what we're trying to do is to bridge this, sort of show you that there are other characters that act that way as well. And sometimes people just only focus on the big screen. So they don't take into account a character like Ezra Bridger. Maybe they don't even watch it, but you go back to Luke Skywalker. Let's go to the end of The Last Jedi where, a young boy reaches for a broom and it comes to his hand.
Yeah.
That was a difficult thing that Luke Skywalker had to learn to pull. How many times did he reach for the lightsaber in desperate need, in the Wampa Lair, and here it comes.
Well, and techniques, I mean, if you want to make references from canon or from Legends, I mean, Force techniques are, some are stronger with others and some are stronger with, others.
Right, exactly. Yeah, different techniques learned by different different Jedi, different Sith, different orders around the galaxy.
And
so
they may, come to light in a moment of need. They may manifest, and that's what I'm saying. Manifest in a moment of need,
right?
And that may be, it may just be a broom that moment, but maybe the kid was defending himself in another. It's
yeah.
The Force manifests itself, and we know that.
And again, that is the character. Some people they want to give, think about what Luke Skywalker said in The Last Jedi. It's not the Jedi who should get the credit.
Yeah,
it's the Force.
Yeah,
Yoda brings it back. The Force is my ally.
Yeah,
and a powerful ally it is.
Amen.
And the more in tune you are with that Force, and I get that. That's where people are like, how is she that in tune? Well, sometimes it's not always about how in tune you are. Great, it's sort of like our exertion, like our adrenaline rush, when you hear the stories of people lifting cars off of people and stuff like that. It's in those times of great peril and need, desperation, where the Force can augment your abilities.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. It's, I don't know, that just kind of, especially going back and rewatching, I was just like, holy cow, I kind of forgot he had done that. And like I said, I don't have a problem with the way Rey developed her abilities. I do have a problem with the way they've handled her since that point. And just a lack of development in The Last Jedi. She's our hero. She's our heroine. Like this is her moment. Like, we focused on Ezra the whole time, and you had supporting characters, but I mean, we're missing that development that we got to see out of. There are a lot of parallels, but there's some differences in their development later on. After this realization occurs. Yeah,
and I argue there's a little bit of development, but not as much as maybe as we thought there should have been.
Exactly.
And it goes back to the decision between the time gap between the two movies, and then also just the fact that they put a lot of Luke in that, and really needed to develop or to bring him explain what's going on.
Yeah.
His state of mind and stuff. So that was tough. She did kind of she's developing through us watching Luke, but it's hard to see sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, anyways, my friend. So definitely two characters who we want to kind of discuss and talk, more about. You had said the Force powers that Ezra exemplifies, and all before he has a master, all that good stuff. And I think so. I don't know, like he's someone who, and there's other parallels that you were mentioning too, like right between. You have an article, I think, don't you? From
there's a couple articles out there. I think StarWars.com sums it up best. They kind of touch on those similarities that you forget about, and I think a lot of people that are raising issue about Rey, her growth in the Force or her development in the Force are watching Rebels.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Those that are going out and offering criticisms like this, are watching Rebels.
Yeah, those are the people. Yeah, they're invested. They're going to sit down in front of a keyboard and type. And
I think so.
And say things. Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, they make a lot of comparisons, and there are a lot of parallels, and you do have to either go back and watch all of the material and really take note, or find a nice article like this that can really it sums it up nicely. And it's from July of this year, and it's titled "Star Wars Echoes: Rey and Ezra Bridger Alone and Searching for Belonging."
Yeah.
The title alone just brings back
who's the
memories.
author on that? Does it have an author there?
Let's scan down here.
They typically have this. Star Wars has got some good.
Neil Clyde.
Okay.
Clyde.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say Clyde.
Some good writers. So, okay, cool. So yeah, they're both kind of searching for their place.
And from the beginning, I mean, the similarities are right there. Both were forced to live alone from a very young age.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, Rey, obviously, she doesn't know who her parents are. She does, receive a flashback and sees herself witnessing, assumingly, their departure. She's also, remember, taking count of the days they've been presumably gone in her AT foot,
right?
Like, where she's living. So,
is that weeks?
Yeah.
Is she counting weeks or days?
Weeks? Is it days?
Yeah, someone go check that out. I mean,
that would be some deep knowledge.
Yeah.
Ezra also, with his parents were taken by the Empire and presumably killed, and he doesn't really know that until
the end.
The end.
He's searching. Yep.
Yeah. So they're both searching for that belonging.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning.
Right.
And they quickly find what some call a new family. You have the Ghost family. Rey, some unlikely folks, she stumbles across Finn, later Poe.
Yeah.
Han Solo, who she really gravitates towards.
Yes.
Insanely similar circumstances right from the beginning.
Yep.
Each were tempted by darkness in the form of a person they thought they could trust.
Yeah.
Initially, Rey doesn't trust Ben, Kylo Ren.
Yeah. But definitely grows on her.
Grows on her to a point where she
there's a connection.
Leaves Luke to go try to save him. And
isn't that crazy? Wow. I don't want to derail the conversation, but
it's crazy.
The idea that she wants to say she feels like he's our only hope.
Yeah.
He's our hope.
He's the hope. Who the guy who just murdered his father in front of her.
Yeah. He can save us.
That's a lot to look past.
Wow.
Especially if there's going to be a relationship that develops.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. So there's that, and you may be thinking, okay, well, who was that for Ezra Bridger? And I'll be honest, when I was kind of thinking about this, I too was like, well, who was that for Ezra? Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Darth Maul stepping into the picture, and he knows he's bad. He's seen him do bad things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He knows he's seeking for something that isn't good. And he ends up, putting his trust in him. And ultimately, he's aware of what's going on. But that's a big one that I never even really thought about. Another one that's kind of, I don't know if this may be a little bit of a stretch, but worldly pirates taught each of them a lesson despite less than stellar outcomes. And they make a comparison in this article with Maz and Rey. They actually are considering Maz a kind of pirate character, which I can see it.
Okay.
I can see it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you definitely think back to Hondo and Ezra, and he actually learns quite a bit from him.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. Obvious ones, their lightsabers are blue, but a big one. One of the biggest similarities, the loss of a mentor taught both Ezra and Rey how to fulfill their destinies alone.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ezra learned a lot from Kanan.
Yep.
And, witnessed his sacrifice and ultimately had to come to, his own
acceptance of it.
Yeah.
He had to watch it again,
did.
in A World Between Worlds.
Yeah.
And he wanted desperately to change things, but then he had to realize what was significant about that moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the more I think about, and we're going to, in just a little bit, we're going to shift the conversation, I think, because there's some things I want to talk about the end of Rebels and where we're going and, maybe even make some connections to Rey. But there's these, when you think about, I said it last week, a couple weeks ago maybe, nexuses, places where the Force is strong. We talked about Dagobah. There's a place in the temple. There's a couple other planets. Yoda goes there at the end of Clone Wars. Places where the Force is very much Mortis, think of that. So, A World Between Worlds is the gateway, whatever you want to call it, is there. But I also think there's these significant moments that you can't change. You know what I mean? That can't be altered or something, because it's like this idea that, like, we could save Ahsoka, but we couldn't save Kanan.
Yeah.
Because this was his moment, and he knew what he had to do here, and that changing it would change a lot. I mean, so many other different things.
Yeah. He learned.
Yeah.
From his first gateway experience, right? If I recall
Yeah,
properly.
absolutely.
I mean, he definitely learned, like, that's
Yeah.
destiny is nothing to be messed with.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And he has to face sort of that again with his parents at the end. So,
Yes.
But
Absolutely.
we'll kind of come back to that. But yeah, they're both there's a lot to be learned there from losing a master, a mentor, and then you've got to make it on your own, you know. And I think for Rey, she's lucky in that she's got she had a master of masters. Kanan is someone who kind of came to his own, after the loss of his master and, in the Purge and kind of, so he's not the caliber of like an Obi-Wan or, he's great. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love Kanan.
Well, and Ezra had more time with him too. And
Yeah.
Kanan had some perspective.
Yeah.
I think, which was good. But you're right.
So like the training that
near.
can continue after for Rey seems to be more. There's more there, more significant. But as you said, Ezra had more time with his master, than maybe Rey did. And so, and what's neat is I keep hoping that there's going to be that Dagobah moment where seek out someone else.
Yeah,
that's what they did in 5. They introduced someone new, and you're like, you just buy it. You know, that's Yoda.
Yeah,
he's a master. Look out.
And what's kind of cool is that their destiny. So they both know that they need to fulfill their destiny, and they think a lot of that is saving the galaxy around them. Or with Ezra, it was saving Lothal, but there's something more. And what's cool now is if you look at them both, we're kind of in a similar circumstances with the both. We don't know what Ezra's out there doing. We don't know what his destiny is now. We also don't know what Rey's destiny is now. And will that relationship with Kanan continue? Will Kanan, does Kanan somehow know how to manifest himself now in the Force? Did he learn that? I don't remember. I know they had interactions with Yoda in Rebels, but I don't know if that would have been something that they would have learned at the time.
Something that's interesting is that in Legends, when they talked about this, it was more of a choice. I mean, again, it's a great self-sacrifice. And so he did make that, and you would definitely imagine that the Force would want to preserve his voice, and he could be someone that could speak, to future Jedi, just to be an influencer. But maybe it's more like Qui-Gon. There's not a manifestation, but there's still the voice or the echoings, You know what I'm saying? It's a different level of can you be a full body Force ghost versus just, coming through in an impression or in a dream or in, sort of like Obi-Wan does once he first. It takes him a while to ascend to come back as a full Force ghost. Right away he can influence Luke, by telling him to trust, in the Force and, So I don't know. It definitely could be a thing. But in Legends, when Mara Jade is killed, it's like she holds on to her body and does not. She waits to kind of signal who her killer was. Yeah. And she decides when to let go of herself and to become one with the Force. And it was so great because Luke and Mara kind of like they talk about it. They have this discussion where they talk about what are we going to do at that. When we come to the end, how do you want to be handled? Did they had that conversation like, what do you want? Do you want to become one with the Force? Do you want to have that, or is your body? So is the body going to disappear, or are we going to have a funeral pyre and burn you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
or are you going to join the God? I'm forgetting the folks now. The group from Fate of the Jedi, Outcast.
Oh gosh, the Varandel.
The Varandel. Are you simply going to be a vessel of knowledge for humanity?
Go hide in a cave.
Yeah, that's another. That's a third option.
That's a third option. They're not. I hope no one's choosing that option. But I mean, there's the faking of death there for sure. So, anyways, I don't know, just some stuff to kind of think about in terms of their mentors influencing them. Even more so, and then so just a lot of connections, a lot of parallels between the two characters, and I think we, and maybe it's because it's a cartoon, but we easily accept that Ezra Bridger has these powers, and we don't always seem to do that with Rey, it could just be that the stakes are higher because it's the big screen, and you want to, it's the mainstream fan you're talking about. I get all those complaints, but to those of you who are Star Wars fans and you just love the story and you love the characters and things, I think that's where you can kind of. I always try to find ways where when mistakes are made or something's not done exactly the way you want it to be done, we're just consumers. We're just taking this and we love it. And you need a good consumer base. You do. And I've always appreciated Mark Hamill and all of the cast for being super, conscious of that and so thankful, for because we are also so thankful for. All of their efforts and George Lucas's effort and the progressive, shift in our culture, after Star Wars, I think is huge. We don't talk about it enough. Yeah. But anyways, I don't know.
No, I think you're right though, in that it's the story that we love most, and that's this story. These themes are recycled, and each story that Star Wars tells. So, and that I think is why I'm so open-minded to the idea that these things are occurring, because I loved Luke's original story so much. Yeah, I see the parallels, and I notice that there's flaws in each of the stories, but it doesn't make it not believable to me because it's their destiny, and that's. And they have different paths of getting there, but there's more similarities there than people think. And I mean, you want to talk about other similarities? As we were talking about the Force powers of Legends, we're always making references to them. But that the Skype Force, I think that's what people are calling it.
Skype Force. What are they calling it? Force time.
Force time. Yeah. Force time. I like that. I like that. That happened with Yoda and Ezra in Rebels. So it's just it's so good to go back and reference those things. And some people may have watched Rebels and the episodes are so short sometimes maybe weren't even grasping what was occurring. But Yoda was on Dagobah.
Yeah, exactly.
And projected himself.
Yes.
To I mean, right there with Ezra in the Lothal Temple.
Right.
And then, we see that again with Luke Skywalker.
What a great thing.
What a great thing. Yeah. Maybe Luke learned it from Yoda.
Which one happened first? That Rebels stuff happened first, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Wow. Because Yoda was still alive.
Yeah. I just mean like when they released.
Oh, when they released, that happened before too.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like Dave Filoni does that, and then what is Rian Johnson looking for a cool Force power, and Dave's like, well, this was subtle. I don't know if anybody really caught it, but Yoda force projected himself over to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, Yoda it was a power that Yoda could handle, apparently. And maybe some of that was actually being on Dagobah, which we know was a very force-sensitive planet.
Right.
So
that helps, doesn't it?
It does.
You know?
It does. But I mean, Luke was also at the original, Jedi temple. So
yeah, I know.
It's hard to tell. Maybe Luke just wasn't ready.
We didn't get much really about Ahch-To and its
no.
What powers it held and things. It seemed kind of like a dormant, just
a little bit,
sanctuary.
Yeah,
like there was an ancient power there, but it was just settled. It wasn't.
Well, we do know from the novels that prior, potential masters or maybe had visited and
absolutely,
and the I can't even remember the caretakers.
Yeah, the caretaker. It was a sanctuary of places and things, but it was seemed like. Whether it was a nexus, is up for debate, I think.
True.
So I don't know.
True. I mean, maybe, I don't know, Rey, with that cave, seems pretty...
Yeah, there's something there. Yeah.
Seemed a little dark.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It did. It really did.
But just interesting, not even just, Rey and Ezra, but, interesting comparisons with the Force and how it manifests itself and between these two stories.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, so just to kind of shift our conversation a little bit, and
let's go.
We'll probably, let's
turn.
Ezra's
got a lot on his mind.
Let's turn it up a notch here.
It's a 10.
Yeah, it's a 10. Because we wanted to start with that, and I think it's so funny because I have to kind of hold myself back from talking about. You saw earlier, I wanted to talk about, where is Ezra? You had just briefly touched on where is he? What's going to happen? What's his fate?
Yeah.
It's something we didn't really finish talking about several months ago, and I'm interested in it. I'm really interested in the Gateway, a world between worlds, and I'm interested in what it can do.
Yeah,
and whether it's going to be utilized ever again. Is there more? We're getting into, Mike and I right now are both kind of diving back into that time period in Legends where we've got Jason Solo, Jaina Solo, and all that kind of good stuff going on. Basically, Darth Vader's grandchildren, which is what we're dealing with here in the sequels.
Yeah,
and so it's I wanted to kind of, in reading Fate of the Jedi, we're going to be talking about the Mortis gods a little bit. It's going to come up in Fate of the Jedi. We're going to talk about the connection there, and I'll kind of save that topic for another day because it's a whole another thing. But it makes me wonder. What? Because the Mortis gods were, the Lothal Temple being and the Lothwolves are this pathway into. It's one of the portals. It's one of the ways in which you can enter a world between worlds, I guess, as we'll call it. And what is it? Will it ever be used again? Is Ahsoka kind of the guardian? We talked about, there's a lot of rumors out there as to whether Ezra Bridger would ever show up in the sequels in Episode 9, all that kind of stuff. Highly unlikely.
But you mentioned a rumor, though, that kind of...
Yeah, someone had a rumor that... what was his name?
You said Sam Smith, and I immediately thought of...
Not Sam Smith.
The singer, Sam something or other.
What is his name? He's the doctor...
Sam Wise.
Oh, my God.
No,
not even close.
Nope.
I got you here. It's the guy who played Dr. Matt Smith.
Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Sam Smith.
The guy who played Doctor Who. Because he's going to be in, Episode 9. And so people were looking at his face, comparing pictures of him to like this Ezra Bridger character.
And I laughed. And I was like, no, he's way older than Luke. And what did you say, Ez?
So I only say this because I'm always thinking of ways in which things could be true. When I hear something super crazy, I think, how could I make that a possibility?
Yeah.
What could I do to make it work? Because you said he's too young.
I discarded it.
His face is too young.
Yeah.
And I thought, the Gateway. Does the Gateway preserve? If you are a guardian of the Gateway, can you be preserved in some way?
Yeah.
And then I kind of got back to the idea of the guardian of the Wills, and possibly the Wills, playing into this a little bit, and maybe him being a servant of the Wills, and does that preserve him? Is he because we know, sort of like Qui-Gon Jinn, in different tellings has come across a shaman of the Wills, and learns these different ways and passes them down to Yoda, through the, on the other side of the Force and things. But I wonder, if if we're gonna get more story about Ahsoka, and does he transition to taking care? If she taking care of that gateway, what did she do? Because once Ezra pulls her out of Malachor, she actually goes back to that time. So she's been there for a little while. Darth Vader slips off, and she actually enters back into the Sith Temple.
Yeah.
So what did she do from that time until the time where we see her later? She knows Ezra saves her.
Back.
Yeah, so she knows she's been saved and pulled into this other world, and he's there, and it seems like I feel like she could possibly become a guardian of that world, and it might preserve her. You know, it might also, what is she? Togruta? Is that what she's called? Her species, Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I feel like they might age a little differently too.
Yeah. Because she definitely aged when we saw her. She.
Yeah. I just wonder. I wonder if they aged to a certain extent, and then they're Togruta. Yeah. Ahsoka Tano. Yep. And so I wondered if maybe, whether it's just her species or if she is going to be preserved in some way. Could we see her, because she looks like, again, I know it's not like episode 6 is not that far removed from the end of Rebels, but it's been a bit.
Yeah.
And Sabine is grown a little bit, and Hera, has Kanan's child, and all that kind of stuff is happening. So they're a part of the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, does she rescue Ezra? They're in the unknown region. Is there more to that region than we understand?
Yeah.
Is that are some of the origins of the Force found there?
Yeah.
And the wills. I keep going back to the wills. Is there some play in here where possibly Ezra could be preserved?
Yeah.
So could someone like, what's his name again? Matt Miller?
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith. totally making names up here on the show. I don't watch Doctor Who. I'm such a terrible person, but
once.
Yeah, once. And I won't watch it anymore. Nope. But and it's great for those of you who do watch it.
Yep.
You can try to persuade me to get into it if you'd like. But so I just keep thinking, it could work if he were preserved in some way and he was in a place where that was beyond time. Because that's sort of what that place is. It's a place outside of time.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting.
It is.
Or is it a place outside of time? We really don't.
I would think if you can jump in between,
You would think so. And I don't really know, and I think David Filoni's never going to really explain it's supposed to be kind of open-ended. They could use it at some point.
Are they never going to revisit that idea?
They may not. But it's such a radical
to bring
idea.
Ahsoka back, that was the way, and then we'll never touch it again. Possibly.
But it should. I think it's so awesome to see the evolution of Ahsoka, just because she's this character who's been kind of underneath all of the main films. She's there, and we don't really. When is she going to putting her in an episode, just legit, or a TV series or something? Legit. Not that she's not legitimate, but like it would send people back into this lore to figure out who she is.
I was kind of thinking about that when you were talking, like the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Could we see Sabine and Ahsoka just
good God
out there searching for Ezra?
Why wouldn't we?
They need to seek.
Why wouldn't we see Sabine? Why wouldn't we have a reference to Sabine Wren?
Because there's a fellow Mandalorian that maybe the Mandalorian could.
Because we actually see at the end of Rebels a flash forward to the end of the rebellion. Luke Skywalker has risen. Correct? Yep. Am I wrong about that? It's the end of the rebellion, and then that's when they decide to go find him. Ezra still hasn't returned.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now I think.
Because episode 6 had already happened.
Right, exactly.
They would summarize that.
What I think is, in Aftermath, you get an indication that Thrawn has reestablished some type of communication with Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah.
Okay, right? It's hinted at.
Yeah, I think so.
I think because he's one of those transmissions that could have been sent for the contingency plan,
Yeah.
And so, okay, if that's the case, then he's reestablished some sort of connection. What is Ezra Bridger doing? Did he fail? Did he sacrifice himself and just moving Thrawn out there? Because that's Thrawn's home turf, you know? So what's going on there, you know? It's also, if you go back to the Old Republic, it's a connection back to the Sith Empire.
Yeah.
And a lot of different relics and things you could find out there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Well, kind of. I guess it should, depends on. The Unknown Region's a big region, by the way. So, where there's also, as you get close to the Unknown Region, there's a bit there. So, What do you think? I mean, the idea that possibly Sabine could be in
why not
the TV show.
Why not? When I thought about it first, I was like, you know what? You don't. They don't want to take away from this new character they're creating, but they can do it.
But they'd add to it. And
they've added characters into things, and they brought back characters in the new trilogy, and to me, it didn't feel like too much. It didn't feel like I was other than the Last Jedi. I didn't feel like I had enough time with Rey when Han showed up. Like I felt like they can do it.
Well, and we had said that the Cassian Andor TV show was the spot where we thought, you can tie all this stuff together. Well, it looks like you can continue to tie that together with The Mandalorian.
You absolutely
could do it first, which is what they're working on now. So,
which I think it would make more sense to me with this being a Mandalorian and having Sabine, have this knowledge and this of what's happened. And we don't know what this guy knows. We don't know exactly who he is, but why not? It's out there in the outside of the jurisdiction of really the Alliance or the New Republic and the kind of maybe not the Imperial Remnant, but we'll see. We think that's going to happen.
Well, and here's the thing. So we have a situation where Diego Luna is going from big picture down to TV show. We might actually have a situation where you go from TV show to big picture because they're they've been leveled a little bit. I think Netflix has helped with that, and TV shows seem to be better quality, nowadays and bigger productions.
Well, let me ask you. Let's just assume that they're both very plausible ideas, and that you could throw Ahsoka into either Cassian or the Mandalorian. Where would you rather see her?
Wow. Well, I don't know. I think it's easier to put her in with Cassian in some way, but it just depends on the timeline as to when she went missing. And ceases to be fulcrum, kind of thing. Yeah. So you'd have to really figure out where you're gonna put the timeline for that show. How far back are we gonna go? Because he's been in this rebellion since he was 6 years old. He talks about he's been at this. We just watched it the other day. It was great.
Yeah.
And now, so it might be, to bring her in here or there or make references to her, we could do it there. But now that I think about where they're picking up with the Mandalorian, and if that is the Imperial Remnant and not the First Order, and that's sort of what's happening, you could have Ahsoka show up there.
Yeah.
And I almost wouldn't mind if she shows up there, then there's got to be an Ezra Bridger reference too, and Sabine. So you got to put all those in there together.
I'm looking for someone.
Yeah.
Me too. Maybe they both could use each other.
Looking for different people, but their paths happen to go the same way.
Yeah.
You've still got Eli Vanto out there, sent by Thrawn out in the unknown region. So, and they're on the back corners of the galaxy on the outer rim. So it can be done, but where would I rather see it? I'd probably rather see it in The Mandalorian.
Same. I was thinking
because it would add a whole other layer to me. Because with Cassian, you've already got everything that you show me, and that's going to be awesome. You've got X-wings, Y-wings. You've got all the rebel stuff. You got all that stuff going on, and you can. There's so much you can pull there. But I start to think you really can't pull any of those legacy characters. The original trio. You could pull C-3PO and R2 and different characters into the Mandalorian and make appearances and stuff. But who can you really pull into that?
Yeah.
Poe's parents. Possibly.
Yeah.
Trying to think of different characters.
That's true. Never thought about that.
Yeah. Who you could bring in that would make it more like this is here we go, more development. But
they seem to settle down after
they do.
Really just kind of. But then again, their son joins the cause, so maybe not.
Well, it's air quotes settle down. Han and Leia go through times where they settle down, but
that's
then
true.
We're back at it again.
True.
There's always trying to settle down.
I would like to see Ahsoka be a big role in the Mandalorian. I think we could reference her as Fulcrum in the Cassian series, but I want to see her in the Mandalorian as just this wise character that we never really got out of her from Rebels. There were moments that
Yeah.
but I want to see her in her brown cloak, just walking the streets of whatever this place is.
Well, the fact that you said, I don't know why I didn't think of this, but Sabine is a Mandalorian.
Absolutely.
And this is the show about a Mandalorian. And she's still around during that time period. So she could be involved.
Yeah.
If not the head, she could be Mandalore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also love the idea. I was really hoping for. They kind of lost not sight of it, but they just shifted direction in that like this love scene between, Sabine and Ezra. But she's still hanging around. She's the one still thinking about him. She's the one still wanting to find him.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems like Hera's got her family to worry about. She's got these different things. And,
You're right. She was the one ready to go, and then in the distance there was Ahsoka to join her. But it was her idea to go out searching for him. They're not gonna Ezra did a lot for him.
Yeah.
So that just kind of dawned on me. I would really like to see it, and especially if we're wondering, like, okay, so how are we gonna? We think the Mandalorian is gonna be a pretty deep cut here in Star Wars lore because you're paying $7.99 or whatever for a subscription. So if this Mandalorian is a character we really don't know about, cool. Yeah, he has the armor. Cool. We'll probably see some creatures. There's probably gonna be some Imperial remnants, so we'll see some stormtroopers, but. Where's going to be the deep cuts? Let's bring in Ahsoka. Let's bring in Sabine. They're interesting enough characters that someone just joining, I think, would appreciate it. And then you just revert them right back to Rebels. You revert them right back to Clone Wars. There's an opportunity there. They got to strike. If they're not going to make those connections in the big pictures, you got to do it in these television series. You got to. You got 10 episodes to do it. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Yep.
On board. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I know. So there's some cool stuff. There's some cool connections, but I don't know, man. I am hoping that this world or a reference to it or portals or something deeper mysteries of the Force come out in 9. And here's one of the reasons why I know they're building the Resistance, and this is Star Wars, which I get, but sometimes I've felt like there's not enough. There is plenty of it, but it's sort of like, man, there's
some more.
When you see what they do with the Jedi temples and stuff in the Clone Wars series, and you see what they did in Rebels, you're like, man, there's so much good lore there for the Jedi and for Force users and stuff that you can't overdo it.
You can't.
You got to keep it, leave some to the imagination. But I don't know,
especially if we're letting the past die.
Well, and how big is our Resistance? I mean, what is this going to be about? Or do we have one episode to bring the Resistance back?
Yeah.
Are we going to get a clone army? You know what I mean? Is that what we have to do to get the Resistance back on track? It just
seems pretty bleak right now. So they could use a legend.
Yeah, they
could use some of that lore.
They really could. Rey needs to seek out someone, a master of some kind.
Absolutely. So. I mean,
I don't know. But anyways, I don't know. Any final thoughts on that?
No, I'm glad
topic?
we got to talk a little bit about the Rey and Ezra. I'm glad we did that. I would like to do it maybe in a bigger session with some other folks just to get their take because you and I are we're a little biased.
Yeah, sure we are.
We're open-ended guys.
We'll tell you we are.
But we love Star Wars, and that's just what it is. And we have friends that love Star Wars too. But I'd love to have more perspective on those criticisms and the parallels and what other folks think. So I think that's good, and it ties right into the conversation we just had.
Yeah.
Rebels is immensely important to this community, and the legacy needs to continue.
Yes.
It's there's just too much importance with Ezra and Thrawn.
Well, and Ezra's turning into one of those characters that like Ahsoka has become kind of beloved. Not as much as Ahsoka, but not even close. But getting to that level, I think such a mystery is there, and where did he go? Same thing. When you do that, when you put a character out there in limbo, and we don't know what happened to him, it's like,
well, especially a character like Thrawn.
Yeah, exactly.
People love Thrawn so much that they brought him back and put him in a completely different time period.
Yeah. Yep.
And now his future is up for grabs. So I think it has to be addressed, man. And I don't know where, but by God, something's got to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because Aftermath really rewrote all of that Thrawn trilogy. You know, the Imperial Remnant and I mean, his sort of ascension there as a Grand Admiral, or just being in charge of the Empire. So I don't know. I'm interested to see if they're going to continue his story. They're going to continue Ezra Bridger's story in some way, even if it's subtle. I think it's kind of cool to know that they're still there. There's still stuff that they're learning, and that they could be communicating that back to different people. Could make a return to the core. We'll see.
In my eyes, he's such an important character. He's up there with Rey, and that would just be like leaving Rey in Episode 9, just her future just unknown.
Yeah, exactly. And Thrawn too.
No resolution.
Big
Thrawn.
players.
Exactly.
They're going to have to resolve it eventually, in some way, shape, or form. So we'll see how they do that. So
absolutely.
Got to keep David Filoni around, don't you? Fantastic.
Well,
mastermind.
He might be making more of the decisions here.
He might be
soon. So
I hope so.
It's very possible.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, hey, thanks again, guys, for listening. This is the place where we just kind of just go. You
got something on the mind? Fire up the mics.
Boom.
Turn on the cameras.
That's right. It's
ready to talk. Put some pants on. Let's talk.
Maybe on that.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, anyways, hit us up at RW2187 on Twitter. Head over to our Facebook page. We're really trying to, grow our Facebook page a little bit. So that's Rebel Watch Podcasting there on Facebook. And we'd like to get to the point where we can make a group. If you guys are interested in that, let us know. Yeah. A little discussion group there. We can kind of incorporate some of that into the show. And so hit us up for sure. We'd love to get some of your comments. We got some great voicemails, that we got to talk about last week, which was fantastic.
Yes.
So if anyone wants to leave us a voicemail, you can hit us up at 614-547-2570.
And don't forget, we're going to be going live here more. So if you're
I
into
got the Discord
audio and the live and you want to hear us make fools of ourselves, which we never edit our videos other than, cutting off the beginning, ramblings and the end. That's it.
That's it.
There's no jump cuts. There's nothing. So you're getting it essentially raw in a recorded version. But if you want to, crack open a Christmas ale with us and
there's a lot of shenanigans at the beginning and the end of these episodes.
Well, and it gives people a chance to interact during the show. If we're going to do it on Discord like we have been, then people can comment. You can influence the conversation live.
Yeah. So, it's actually a lot of fun. So Jory, I think, had a good time with us last night. We were on late doing some holiday special stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thanks again for listening. And as always, may the Force be with you.